Knock, knock, knock. Hello, listeners out there. Can you see me? Can you see the sweat? Can you see these eyes? To all the parents out there, breathe in, breathe out. How do y'all do it in the summer? That's what we want to know. How do you do it in the summer? Because I just had 2 days off with our little one and I am beyond whatever. So I know all of you parents out there, even though if you don't have parents, you know a parent, you have a parent or had a parent, and you should thank them because they didn't abandon you somewhere because you were screaming all day for your chocolate ice cream that you wanted for breakfast, and then you didn't like that chocolate ice cream. So that's why we're here today at Life and In Between. Because sometimes we all need that little break, that little in between moment between the chaos and the comforts of home where we can just breathe. And to help us breathe, to help us recenter, to reset is the wonderful, lovely.
Thank you so much, Patrick. I am so excited. I think this is I've been looking forward to this episode. Today we have on Don, and we got to meet through Podmatch. And I just have to say that I was so excited in having this episode because Don is a former journalist and, if I'm not mistaken, a marketing professional. And you actually wrote a book. You published a book that's called The End Games, and you also have like a digital newsletter, and you're doing so many things. And so you're my inspiration. You're my mom's inspiration, soon to be, and the episode is going to be dedicated to my mom. So, with further ado, I am gonna announce and introduce the amazing Dawn. And Dawn, if can you please tell us a little bit about you?
Okay, sure. Well, as Deanna said, I am a former journalist. From the time I was about 10 years old, I decided that's what I was going to do in life. And I did it for about 3 years and then decided it was time to do something else. But I've been a writer all my life and went into self-employment and then into self-retirement, which was an easy transition for me. Um, And in self-retirement, I realized that I still needed to write. And I started writing The End Game, which is a Substack newsletter about aging positively. And from the research and the conversations I had with a lot of people doing that, I also realized that the whole world of retirement has fundamentally changed. And that caused me to write a book which I call The AfterWork, finding uh, fulfilling alternatives to retirement. Because the retirement that we thought we were going for doesn't really exist for very many of us anymore. And there's a new world out there.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. And you're absolutely right. There's a new world. And please forgive me for confusing the name of your book. And I can you tell me what was the retirement that you envisioned and what is it now, if you don't mind?
Oh, sure. Well, I was very much looking forward to my own retirement because I had pictured that it would be um, my never-ending summer vacation, and no responsibilities, nobody to answer to, and I could do whatever I wanted. And so I was going to do what I really wanted to do, because even before I wanted to be a newspaper person, I wanted to be an author. So I started writing novels, and I wrote two of them in 4 years, and they still sit on my shelf gathering dust because I couldn't get anybody else interested in them. And in the course of doing that, I realized what I had not expected was how lonely being a writer is when you do it that way. Was fortunate after 4 years to get into sort of a writing group that was online with other creative people. And shortly after I started that, I was explaining my dilemma about not getting feedback for 4 years. And somebody said, well, why don't you write shorter stuff? And I said, oh, I hadn't thought of that. And Substack came along, and Substack was a perfect medium for writing a weekly newsletter. And so I started writing about positive aspects of aging. And I've been doing that almost 5 years now, once a week, putting something out there, either informative or some stupid thing that I've done and trying to relate it to other people, um, that sort of thing. It was it was the perfect matchup between a voice that I'd been trying to find and a medium that would carry it. So I was really lucky. It only took like 70 years, but there it is, the perfect match.
I love that. I love that. I know I have so many questions, but I want to also give the platform to Patrick if you have any questions. If not, I'm just going to jump in.
Millions of questions because you have so much, like just so many different aspects, the writing, the journalism, the retirement, going with that. This is a short response if you want. Do you think journalism has lost its teeth in keeping people in power accountable overall?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's very sad. I don't think it's the fault of journalists, but I think that the business model that worked for many years and made newspaper and magazine owners very wealthy
Mhm.
doesn't work anymore because of electronic media. And a few, like the New York Times, have figured out a way to work with it. But by and large, the print media is not healthy financially, and therefore it's not as courageous and it's
Mm,
not willing to take chances.
that's a good way to put it. Yeah, they lost the financial muscles, and
Yeah.
yeah. So speaking of the financial muscles too, I'm curious. So when you self-retired and you were self-employed, were you, because I'm 46 and I'm very much in my going over my IRA, my SEP, and going through that. Were you financially guided by anyone? Were you using just basic stocks, ETFs? Like, what was your direction?
Oh, my accountant advised me to set up an SEP,
Okay.
and many years I didn't even have anything I could put into it.
Hmm.
But honestly, I didn't do anything right. I collected Social Security when I was 66 instead of waiting till 70. I didn't save along the way. What saved me is my wife inherited some money, and she was steady enough to have a state job for 35 years that created a really nice 401k.
Wow.
So I'm cruising on her wise choices.
Let me write this down. Okay,
Yeah,
Rachel.
marry well. That's what you have to do.
Yeah, get that inheritance. Okay. Okay. No, I got many more questions to probe, but yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, money is the wrong question to ask me. I'm not the
Well, no,
money
it's
guy.
good because the new journalism, the new stuff is social media, content creators, all of that, and they make anywhere millions. But then, the most basic, my wife was also doing UGC. We have friends who do it. You make 1,500 a project to 100,000 a year, but nobody really knows about those SEPs and
Yeah,
and
it,
building. So it's
they can,
yeah.
but I'm not the money wisdom guy. In fact, in my book about retirement, it's distinctive because it has almost nothing about finance and almost nothing about health
Mhm.
because I am wise enough to know what I don't know. It's really about the emotional side of retirement, which most financial planners haven't come to grips with, and most retirees haven't either. And so that's really where I concentrated was looking at the kinds of things that make a transition from working to not working difficult for some people, the way it impacts relationships, um, other tripwires that you would not necessarily expect if before you step into retirement, or as I call it, the after work. And I,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
chose I chose that word because retirement was always about the end of something. it was the reward you got at the end of a long career. And it wasn't supposed to last very long. You were supposed to be pretty used up by the time you got to retirement. And a generation ago, most people died 5 to 10 years after they retired. Um, the after work is not the end of anything. It's an opportunity to have a new beginning. And the difference is partly longevity because we are, most of us, going to live extended lives. We're going to be living into our 80s and 90s. Some of us are going to live to 100. So if you retire at 60 or 65 and you have another 25 to 30 years ahead of you, um, that's a long time to play golf. That's a long time to sip pina coladas in the sunset. It's probably not the best use of your time, but it is enough time if you wanted to start something brand new. You can go begin a new business, start a whole new career. Um, you could take that thing that you had always wanted to do when you were a child, but you were convinced not to pursue it because it wasn't practical enough. And you can pick up that saxophone, or you can try to sketch, or you can write. And if it becomes a money producer, that's all the better. But the real point is you get to choose what satisfies you, and there's no penalty if you fail. The world is not counting on you to produce at this point in our lives, and that gives you a lot of freedom to experiment and to make mistakes. And that's why I call the after work, a new beginning.
I love that. I love the fact that the after work, you written this beautiful piece, and I have to buy the book. I'm gonna purchase that because I want to read that. And from what we've talked about previously and what you were telling me, it's a beautiful piece of letting people know. And as you mentioned, now you can fail, and it's okay to fail. It is like absolutely, there are no major consequences.
That's right.
And that's the beauty of it. And it takes away that fear. And I think in today's time, so many people are driven by fear, and they lose the aspect of actually living and enjoying. And I think that's the message that you're sending. And that's, it's a beautiful message. Can you tell me a message that you can give, like the younger generations that right now are in that rat race and that are going through that, like that competitive, and if they fail, it's the end of the world. I mean, what message would you give them?
I used to, when I was at work, I used to confront major crises by saying, everyone, click your heels 3 times and say, it's only a soap opera, and try to get people to at least laugh a little bit about what was happening around them. Um, that doesn't work for everybody, but I've really tried not to take myself too seriously all my life, and to try to encourage other people not to be so wrapped up in themselves that they can't see the humor in the situations we're put in. The kind of humor of, say, a MASH unit, the whole sense of we're in a big crisis, but we're in it together, and somehow we've got to laugh to get through it. That's kind of how I've chosen to live my life, and how I encourage other people to do that. Because honestly, if you look back, if you make it to 70 or 80 or 90 and you look back, what are you going to be proud of? What are you going to be remembered for? How do you want people to remember you? As somebody who made all your deadlines,
Mhm.
or as somebody who was there when somebody needed you to be there, and and had a heart and gave a little bit of yourself and made things go better. That's my best advice. And honestly, like a lot of advice, I only give it when I'm asked for it, and I don't expect anybody to follow it because I can see things from my perspective that they probably are not able to see at this point.
It's very true.
But
You
that,
kind of
for
what
what it's
Peter,
worth.
you kind of said what you were saying was take your job seriously, but take yourself lightly. You you can learn everything
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it.
and get that. So it's especially in this world where everybody has a brand online. You know, everybody has to be the influencer, the mogul, and they have to be that. And you just be authentic, be free.
And Deanna, you were saying about all the fear that's out there, and a great deal of it is cultivated deliberately um, to make us work harder or to make us not ask questions about what we're doing. Fear forces us into a survival mode, and it's deliberate. So I urge people to sort of step back and think about where is this pressure coming from, and how real is it? Is it that important that the design for the project gets out on Thursday before noon, or will it be okay if it takes a day longer? Is the world going to end? That's
So,
not the kind of uh, attitude that made me get a lot of promotions. And in fact, I've been fired more than once. I'll tell you that. But still, you have to respect yourself, and you have to save something of yourself for those you love and for those who make life really meaningful for you.
so would you say then that it might almost be necessary for people to kind of not not push back, but there's like a whole term around it now. Like it's not quite quitting. It's just like you just settle for mediocrity ish. So you're not burning yourself out to go above and beyond, but you just float.
No, I don't recommend mediocrity. We all suffer from work that's mediocre. I would hope everyone would do their best, but I think it's more about separate yourself from the work. Um, there is there is the work, and that is a part of you, but it's not the whole you. Uh, and let's keep the other part of you alive.
And that would be the hardest thing then in retirement, to the after work is because you lose that identity that you had so long with.
That a lot of people have an issue with that, men in particular, but it can be women or men who have really put all of their effort into work and have sort of put blinders on and concentrated on that one thing. And then retirement hits, and suddenly they notice that the phone's not ringing, and the email has stopped, and the texts have stopped, and they thought they were a very important person
Mm.
when they had the title and when they had the position, and now they seem to be superfluous. So what now? It's a very hard transition for people like that to make. And uh, part of the understanding what to do in the afterlife is going back to recapture what is the real you and what really makes you happy. Because a lot of people have forgotten what that is. And another problem uh, is lack of structure. If you go to work every day at 9 o'clock and you get off at 6 and you know that lunch is going to be from 1 to 2, and then you come home and every day is the same and there's no schedule and it's all floating. You can do anything you want, but you have nothing to do. This is a real issue that people have to take some time to get through. One of the things that's really fortunate is that with this new uh, opportunity in retirement and the difficulties that people have, there's a new profession that has arisen that's called retirement coaching, and it's very valuable. People get trained for it and certified for it, and they can work one-on-one with people who are having problems and just kind of work them through the discovery of themselves. The things that really matter to them, the things that get them excited and that they really are passionate about, and direct them along those lines to have something very good to do with their time.
Mm. This is good. Yeah.
It is. And you mentioned something, and I want to circle back because it's just in the back of my mind, and I just want to bring it to the forefront. You mentioned about when retirement, it changes the dynamics of everything, even including your relationships, your marriage, and everything. And so a lot of people don't really realize when that happens, you retire and you're with your spouse, those long hours. Can you kind of walk us through a little bit of that and some maybe helpful tips for people that are now experiencing something like that?
One of the things I mentioned in the book is that there is a psychological diagnosis in Japan that seems to affect about 60% of older Japanese women. And what it translates to is retired husband syndrome. Because in Japan, the culture, even more than here, is you go to work, you work for 40 years, you don't have to do anything else except work. Your wife takes care of everything else. From a practical standpoint, the men and the women in the marriage don't really see each other more than an hour a day for 40 years. Now the man comes home and he's lying around the house, and one, he doesn't know what to do with himself, or worse, the wife finds out they're not really that friendly with each other. And this is spending more time becomes a problem. Um, I share that because I think this, in a lesser degree, this happens in American families too. The man who has always left everything to the woman except work uh, now wants to help do all those other things. And the women say, "Hello, where have you been? I've been doing this by myself all this time. I don't need your help." Um, it's somebody told me whenever a husband retires, it's a feminist issue. You like
Mm.
that?
Mm.
Um, but counseling really helps, I think, in those situations to try to get both of them on the same wavelength. Um, they may have different ambitions for what they want to do in retirement. He may want to travel. She may want to stay home.
Mm.
She may want to travel. He may want to go to baseball games. You know, it's it takes some readjustment.
It's kind of like rediscovering and kind of maybe falling in love all over again with a different, because you're now different people at a different point in your life.
Hopefully that's what happens. Yeah.
Yes.
Um, I've been married for more than 50 years, and I credit a lot of that to the fact that we saw counseling from time to time when the communication wasn't going well.
Mhm.
And we've learned how to talk to each other and how to respect each other and work, give ourselves enough um, independence to do our own thing, but still be a team. Everyone's not that lucky, but it worked for me.
It's my parents. They were both full-time working career. I was a latchkey kid. And so yeah, that was kind of one of those things that are in retirement. It's like, oh, now they're together the whole time, and
Yeah, who are
my
you?
dad's outside a lot. My mom volunteers a lot. So you got to keep yourself busy. My wife's parents run a radio station, and they're in their 70s. And I tell her, I'm like, I think they do more than we do. They keep going. It's like up at 3 in the morning. I'm like, what in the world? It's You're supposed to be retired.
Somebody's got to get the farm report out, right?
Get it out there.
Yeah, but more power to them. I think that the people who are the happiest in the after work are the ones who do have things that keep them occupied and hopefully fulfilled, um, and give them a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning, a reason to get up out of bed in the morning.
And for some older families, it's kids. I know our little one just
Right.
new spark of life into everyone and taking life from us sometimes.
Also true. No, I think for a lot of people, grandparenting becomes the purpose and the cause. And they can be helpful to the children as well by providing relief.
And what is
Nothing, go
your,
ahead.
oh, sorry. And this is, I guess I kind of experienced a midlife retirement of sorts. I was in one industry for about 18 years, very prestigious, stepped away, and then it was kind of like, yeah, I lost my crown. I lost my identity because it was, that. And all of a sudden I'm like, well, I'm a dad. I'm a dad. And I was a full-time dad for like a year. And I'm like, I would not change this, but I remember getting flown all over the country and getting, all the bougie restaurants and stuff.
I had a period like that also where I let my wife do the earning and I was babysitting our 3-year-old. And I found myself attaching myself to the daycare givers because I needed adults to talk to.
Mhm.
And it wasn't the healthiest. So, uh, but yeah, I think that's the thing. We all understand that there are transitions in life. I don't think it's been well recognized that going from work to not working is one of them and a very important one, and one that not everyone navigates smoothly. So that's part of what this book is about, is to try to give people a sense that it's okay if you stumble. You don't have to have all the answers figured out. And it's also okay to experiment until you find what works for you.
Mm.
Absolutely. On I'm kind of curious, Don, do you have any plans on writing another book?
I'm
Or
I have plans to write, but I haven't figured out what the next project is going to be
okay,
yet. But I
okay.
have a coach, and we're going to talk about that in a few days.
You mentioned you have, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Patrick. Go.
I was just gonna say a plug would be retirement for the digital generation, for all of those tech savvy who are trying to get retirement and that mindset of it's a change.
Well, it is change, and um, I certainly don't want to try to predict what life is going to be like in 10 years or 20 or 30 years. It's hard to predict what it's going to be like next week, but I do think that the landscape we have now is quite different from what it was 20 years ago, and that's not widely recognized. And so what I wanted to do was bring that awareness out there and show that it's a great opportunity for using our gift years successfully and in a passionate and purposeful way.
It's good. It's good.
You're embarrassing
I'll take
me.
it if you have nothing because I got questions the other
Okay,
time.
go ahead, because I was,
Not-
go ahead.
You're embarrassing me because I feel like you're treating me like I'm speaking wisdom and I know better.
No,
So
you are wise. I'm always wanting to extract the information. And so I guess, and I'll kind of go way back to the beginning then. What was your self-employed entrepreneurial journey like? Because it's kind of the same, like you have to fail, then you succeed a little, fail, succeed a little.
that is all true, except at that time it was very important to me to succeed because I wanted to, bring money into the household. And it was not easy. I was basically a freelance writer, and I would have years where I did very well, and I would have years when I couldn't get anyone to answer a call. And it had little to do with me, I discovered. It had a lot to do with what was happening in the economy.
Mm.
And I couldn't control that. So it was a lot of up and down and very stressful because of that.
And
Uh,
how would you navigate so I have several friends that are like, I'm gonna be an entrepreneur, and I'm like, get ready. And I was in it. I've been in it for 20 years, and it's yeah. Some years you're soaring, other years you're like, does anybody remember me? How did you navigate those waves? Because there's times where it hits almost a personal level, like the world hates me. Okay.
Well, I can't say that I navigated it supremely well. Um, I'm susceptible to depression, and it was while I was in my early 40s that I finally got it diagnosed and
Mm.
treated, and that helped a lot. But before that, I would really go down to the depths and then stay there and not be able to do anything I needed to do. It was tough. So I don't advise depression as a solution for anyone. It doesn't work. Um, and a lot of us have it, and there's not much we can do about it except get treated. Talk to somebody who can listen and show you some of your thinking and what's the matter with it and how you can turn it around and get some excellent medicines that really make it better.
Asking for help, yeah. Asking for help, which a lot of people don't want to do.
A lot of people are afraid of it.
Exactly. Exactly. And I know asking for help and finding, I think they're asking for help is, I think, the hardest part, the most difficult. And I think for men more especially, it is very difficult, because in some strange, bizarre way, it's like admitting, I guess, to your failures or something, and it's fearful. What advice can you give to men that right now are facing that, are not wanting to seek that help, that therapy, and because of their ego, because of all these machismo, we want to call it, um,
Well, that's why I think retirement coaching is a good solution, and they're not shrinks. Some of them may have a psychology background, but they're not trained to diagnose or prescribe or anything like that. But the idea of having a coach who can help you be your best is something that is very easy for men to accept. They've some of them have been athletes. They've certainly seen athletes. They know that athletes train, that even the best are coached to get better. So I think that's an easier sell. And I think that's probably a good place for a reluctant male to start looking.
And I'm speaking as one of those males. I think a lot of times what we envision, and for all you listeners out there who, your 30s, 40s, 50s, it's like you imagine, you're just sitting either in a group of men, kumbaya, let's share our feelings and get deep. I've been there, I've done that at different church men's groups. But then other times it's talking with someone who is more kind of just a mirror and showing you, like, well, do you see this pattern? Do you see this pattern? And then as you were saying, and then there's times where you need the medication. You need the pretty much the point where you can't go past anymore. It's like, yeah, medication can help you regulate you. There's so much going on up here. And for the listeners out there, that it's a game changer. It just
Well, and one other thing that is helpful, and men as a group are hard pressed to do this well, is having a close friend,
mm,
someone you can confide in. And there are headlines about the loneliness epidemic, um, some of which is hype. But I think it is generally true that men, and I know this is true of me, have fewer close friends, have not as many people they can confide in. And the more you're able to confide in a friend, like a coach, it's someone to bounce things off of and get a different perspective and get out of yourself a little bit.
mm.
And you can see things in a different way.
Shout out to my boy Ricardo. Thank you for letting me be a sounding board. Everybody needs that one person. My wife and I were talking about this, that when we started dating, we were talking on the phone, and she just asked me, like, so who do you talk to? And I was like, well, I talk to you, talk to my friend. I was like, no, like, who do you talk to, and get? And I'm like, Well, I go out walking with, Robert, or I'll go hiking with Santos, but a decade later, I start to see what she means. Having that person you talk to and you go, what I would say, you vomit on them if you need to. And it's crazy because I see a lot of on social media, especially, that there is that loneliness epidemic, but then guys try to be the puffed up version instead of getting into the in tune of the heart. They're gonna go scream at a tree or break something, or it's like sometimes you gotta grow bigger by growing deeper, and it's hard.
Deanna, we've been programmed really badly. We men, we just we were told to be tough and hide our feelings and don't be dependent on anyone and show how brave we are and all those silly things that don't help a bit as we get older.
Hmm.
Um, one as you saying all this, I'm thinking about the younger generations right now, the incoming that are coming in, that are very socially awkward, and they really, I mean, they're struggling like to communicate. Patrick laughs, and you know what I'm talking about.
No,
I mean,
like I
and
know.
my heart goes out to them because they're just like there is no form of for them to communicate. Um, but you do your form of communication through the art of writing. And
Yes,
kind of just, and I kind of want to, I'm really thinking about this generation that I'm so concerned because they're the future. What advice you can give them? Because they're just so socially awkward. Like they don't know like a, a lot of things, like in their maneuvering. And then also the children that I think when we went through the pandemic period, I think it affected them a lot.
So
it
much.
did.
And so we're dealing with and so I think what I'm trying to pull out is some wisdom.
Help them, Donald. Help them.
Help them.
Wow. That's a hard order, and
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
want to go beyond what I know. But writing has always been the answer for me. And I was a shy person. I still think of myself as shy. I'm definitely an introvert who can go out and meet people in small doses, but I leave a big gathering and I have to come home and take a long nap. Just there are different ways that we are all put together. Um, but for me, writing was always the way to share what I knew. And I think that's what I'm still doing with my weekly column is I'm finding stuff out and then sharing, hey, this is something I just found out. You might want to know this. It might be useful to you. That's all I can offer.
I love that. Speaking of your weekly column and your writing, I want to hear a little bit about your writing. Can you read something that you have written recently to us, if you don't mind?
Well, I can certainly pull something out of the book.
Oh, that would be great.
Um, this is a chapter on planners and wingers.
Ah.
And it asks the question, are you a planner or a winger?
Okay.
Planners are people who prepare for every new situation. They look before they leap. They believe that forewarned is forearmed. They never walk in blind. Wingers make snap decisions on the fly. They have neither the time nor the patience to plan ahead, so they boldly step into situations, content to let the chips fall where they may. Uh, you guys happen to recognize anybody there? So, when you read books, magazine articles, websites, and advice columns regarding the life stage formerly known as retirement, aka the afterwork, you might notice that they are written exclusively for planners, although there are just as many, if not more, wingers in the world. The writers assume that you need to plan, you want to plan, and you will succeed only if you plan. Who knows? They may be right. I may be crazy. But in my experience, I have seen both planners and wingers live enjoyable lives in the afterwork. Then again, I have seen both planners and wingers experience disappointment and frustration in their post-career years. In short, either approach may work and either approach may fail.
Mm.
Love that.
Yes, no, that's awesome. That is
That
good.
is awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, sure.
There's so much truth to it too. It's like you could have the best run in the market, and then the big bust of 2008 or the 30s, and then
Yeah.
you're a winger. I got a lottery ticket, and poof, inherited
So which,
money.
so which one do you identify with, Patrick?
I would say a winger to a point because I also live by one of my mottos: proper preparation prevents poor performance. And so I like to plan, but I, for my, yeah, I think it's 50-50. I mean, Donald, what are you? What do you think you are?
Well, I think I'm a winger, um, particularly in comparison to my wife, who is the penultimate planner and is always at least 3 months ahead of me and everybody else, um, which can be good or it can be troublesome. But she's always ahead, so there's no point in trying to outthink her.
I would say, Deanna, I would say you're a planner. You gotta be a planner to a T, to a T.
You know, I am both, but I am a planner only because of being in corporate America. I was forced to be a planner. But I'm a winger. Like if I was to tell you stories about what I'm like, dang, I didn't know that about you. Like, but yeah. So I think being in the corporate world, it forced me to be a planner because otherwise I wouldn't I would not survive. So I had to force me into being a planner.
Yeah, that's true for me too.
Yeah. But otherwise, I love the winger mindset. I mean, like just it's so great.
It takes a lot of self-confidence to
Yeah, you
wing
have to be
it.
able to jump into the water and like, well, the current's gonna carry me, but I'm gonna swim somewhere. Or you can only,
Well, it's faith that no matter what the situation, you'll figure a way out of it, which is
yeah.
I would love to have that faith.
See, but I mean, for an entrepreneur though, it's like you have to have that faith somewhere in you to think
Right.
you can survive another day. But then so many people, and I went to these courses on, how to scale your business and this, and it's like it was made for planners. It was made for people that can do these 15 steps, in one course. You're gonna buy 7 houses, you're gonna rent those out, you're gonna refinance this. And I'm just like, do you know how hard it was me for to get like this house that I have? And you just find different ways to survive. You adapt, you
Yeah.
survive, and you don't plan it, and then you do plan it, and then the economy collapses and your house plummets.
Well, I just a short story. I have a grandson who is, I guess, 7 now, but when he was 5, he took out a chessboard and wanted to learn to play chess. So I played him, and the first time I played him, he was all about opportunity. Like, I'll take this one, I'll take that one, I'll take that one. And when he ended up at the end, I beat him. The next time, he was thinking 3 moves ahead, like chess players are supposed to do. And he beat me.
Yeah.
And he's got it, he's got that math brain that can play the angles and see them way ahead of me. Uh, and I commend him, but I don't think I'll play chess with him again.
No wagers, no
No
financial.
wagers, yeah, for sure.
Just in general, I like that. Are you a planner or a winger? Like I could see that in a workshop or something.
Right. Well, and the point I make is that even if you are a planner, as you said, Patrick, the post-career years are so full of retirement of surprises that you can't even imagine. You can't even begin to imagine until you are actually there.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things that's so tricky about it.
I like to see things like kind of like on a continuum. Like here's the planner, here's a winger, and instead of all here, it's like you slide it. You know, where do you need
Yeah.
you? I try to cancel out one of my my business platform with Google Suite today, and oh no, you're stuck in your contract till December, and I'm like, I don't want to lose more money because just
Yeah.
last week I was canceling. I was we had a remodel and some stuff on one of our rentals. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna take this one because the 0% interest is almost gone. No, I never had 0% interest. I thought I did. So for a whole year, I was paying like 18%, and I'm just like,
Oh no.
I had planned everything around the fact that this was 0%, and all of a sudden it's not. What Planner Patrick? Where were you, Planner Patrick? And, oh yeah, you had a 3-year-old running and screaming all day. So yeah.
There's that.
Okay, this is therapy. Good night, people.
Um, Don, I would like to ask you a question in regards to if people want to go ahead and get in touch with you and
Yes.
find you, or buy your book. Can you provide some information, kind of drop that information in here so that we can have people
Sure.
reach out to you and
Well, the easiest way to reach me is my website, which is donakchin.com. That's DONAKCHIN.com. I've got a link to purchase the book there. I've also got a link to subscribe to my free newsletter there. So that's probably your best one-stop shop.
okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. How often do the newsletters come out?
I'm getting one out every Saturday morning,
Okay.
once a week, 5 years. I'm almost out of things to write about, but not quite yet. New stuff keeps coming.
I tried a newsletter before and it lasted about 4 months. And I was like, I can't do like even with the podcast, it's like, yeah, it's a good idea, winger. And then it's like I see the Deanna has a plan of all the shows we have. I'm like, this is the planner. This is the
Yeah.
I'd be looking for guests like 5 minutes before the podcast. Like, what are you doing? You want to be on a podcast?
Yeah. I did a limited run of podcasting and just found that between writing a column a week and writing a book and podcasting, I had to give one up.
Hmm.
And podcasting was the one that I let go. But it is a lot of planning, and you have to really love it.
Yeah, no,
You
no.
do. I have to admit it for those that want to like start podcasting, it is a lot of planning. So like when you're juggling multiple things, um, and like what you were mentioning, you have to give something up. There is something that because it is consuming. It is, but I love it. So for me, it's like, oh, I love it. I enjoy it. So I get a
Great.
thrill out of it. So that's one thing that I do have to say, and also. Um, Treat it like a full-time job. Has to be like, I think, well, in anything. And so it sounds to me because you're doing your weekly newsletters every week. That sounds to me that's like full-time work.
It doesn't take full-time hours, but it is a routine that gives my life structure
Mm,
and gives me a sense of what I'm going to do every day. So it's been like a job in that sense.
okay. Okay.
Gotta have structure. Ah,
We need structure, Patrick. We need
no,
it,
no,
okay?
everything on those things, like everything Rachel says, like if Rachel says all of this. No, my wife, my wife was corporate, corporate
Hmm.
powerhouse, met me, que sera, sera, I'm an entrepreneur, making, go make good money in 3 days. I'm like, I'm off the rest of the month, going to ride my bike.
Yeah, it's a balance act. You need some of both, right?
Mm, very much so.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And there was even a show about both of that community, and one of the main actors, his name was Jeff Winger, and he just against Annie the planner. So good job, Deanna. You have kept us on track.
Well, it looks like we're really coming up at close at time. I wanted to ask you, Don, before we start wrapping it up, anything that you want to touch on, you want to tell our audience, our listeners, anything, for example, like what you're working on, any words of wisdom, anything that we haven't tapped into that you like to mention?
Well, I think the main thing that I want to get across, and the thing that the book also is about, is the fact that longer lives has changed everything uh, in our world in ways that we can't fully imagine. Um, in terms of when we stop working, it's a gift of 20 or 30 more years that we have without the adulting obligations that we had for 40 years before. And we have a lot more freedom to really explore what makes us tick and what gives us satisfaction. And we would be foolish not to take advantage of that opportunity. And it's risk free. The world is not going to collapse if we make the wrong choice. We just say, okay, and take another shot at it. And I think that's a wonderful, freeing feeling.
That is. Something that just kind of popped into my head, and I have a bucket list. Do you have a bucket list? And if you do, no?
No, I do not have a bucket list.
Okay, okay. I have one, and okay, wonderful.
Well,
So that's,
I,
I'm
I'm
sorry, go
just,
ahead.
I'm just think, I'm going to try to live every day in such a way that I won't have regrets. Um,
It's good.
Yes, we need.
and and if it ends tomorrow, I will have done what I've done, and that's best I could do.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much, Don, for being on our show today. Thank you for being on Life and In Between. For our listeners, please, I urge you to go to Don's website, purchase this book for a loved one. It would be a wonderful gift to someone. I'm gonna purchase. I'm gonna be purchasing this book for a gift for my mom and for myself. Um, but I also wanted to also thank you and our audience for tuning in. And I'm gonna pass the mic to Patrick. Where can our listeners subscribe, find us, and
Find us all, and thank you, Don, for this therapy session. This is good. Find us all online wherever you find your podcast. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, iTunes. Just find Life and In Between podcast, and you can email us at lifeandinbetweenpodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up. We want to hear more about what y'all want, and the Donalds of the world are here to help people like me. So thank you.
Thank you
thank you so
both.
much.
Thank you both. It's been very enjoyable.
Thank you. Peace, love to everyone out there. Thank you so much.